Ancient stone monuments on remote plateaus possess a precision that defies modern explanation. These plateau monuments, with their uncanny alignments, challenge everything we think we know about early human technology. By the end of this exploration, you will see human history and our ancestors' capabilities in a completely new light. We will uncover how builders without lasers or satellites achieved accuracy that still stumps engineers today, and we will investigate the profound knowledge that may have been lost for centuries. What do you believe is possible when human ingenuity meets a timeless mystery? These are not random collections of stone. The term plateau monuments refers to a specific category of ancient achievement, large-scale structures built on high, flat stretches of land across the world. They are megalithic, made from massive stones that seem to defy the very limits of human strength to move and position. But what truly sets them apart from a single standing stone or a simple burial mound is their complex arrangement. We find them in precise circles, in long, unwavering rows, and in intricate geometric patterns that are deliberately woven into the landscape itself. Their grandeur is not just in their scale or their incredible age, but in their purpose. Each stone, each alignment, appears to have been placed with an intention that transcends simple ceremony. These formations maintain a breathtakingly accurate relationship with the world around them, locking onto celestial bodies like the sun and stars, or mirroring distant mountain peaks and solar pathways. To even begin to grasp the mystery of their construction, we must first understand what they are: a sophisticated network of earthly architecture pointing towards the heavens. This foundational understanding naturally pushes us to ask how modern science attempts to measure such ancient precision. The technology we use today to map our world operates with an almost magical precision. Surveyors now rely on instruments that feel like they belong in science fiction. A total station, for example, combines a powerful telescope with a laser rangefinder and a digital computer, allowing it to measure angles and distances to a target with breathtaking accuracy. Then there is the Global Positioning System, a network of satellites orbiting high above the Earth. By locking onto signals from multiple satellites simultaneously, a GPS receiver can pinpoint its own location on the planet's surface down to a matter of millimeters. We can even use lasers from aircraft or satellites to scan entire landscapes, creating three-dimensional digital models so detailed you can measure the width of a crack in a stone from miles away. This is the gold standard of modern measurement, a symphony of advanced physics and instant digital computation. It is the foundation upon which we build our skyscrapers, map our continents, and explore archaeological sites. This very capability is what makes the plateau monuments so deeply perplexing. When we train these incredible tools on these ancient stone arrangements, we are confronted with a staggering reality. The alignments we find there, the solar sightlines and star paths carved in stone, often match the precision our best technology can produce. They achieved a degree of accuracy that should have been impossible for them. So the question becomes unavoidable. How did they do it without a single microchip, without a laser, without any of the technological crutches we depend on? The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as the ultimate test case for ancient precision. Its four vast sides face almost perfectly north, south, east, and west, with a deviation so slight it is comparable to the thickness of a coin held at arm's length. To achieve this on a structure of such immense scale, its builders needed a deep and practical understanding of the Earth's rotation and the cycles of the heavens. They did not simply point the pyramid in a general direction. They locked its very geometry to the axis of the planet itself, but the alignments do not stop at the base of a single pyramid. Look at the entire Giza complex from above. The three great pyramids of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure are arranged in a pattern that is hauntingly familiar. Their layout on the desert plateau mirrors the three bright stars that form the belt of the Orion constellation. The correlation is not just a rough similarity. The relative positions and even the brightness of the stars correspond to the sizes and spacing of the pyramids. This celestial mirroring suggests a motive far beyond simple tomb building. It points to a desire to create a permanent, earthly representation of a sacred part of the night sky. So how did they physically accomplish this? Theories suggest the ancient surveyors may have used the circumpolar stars, which never set, to find true north. They might have built large, flat, leveled platforms to act as giant observational calendars, tracking the shadow of a central pole over the course of a year. The consistency is what stuns modern experts. This is not one lucky alignment. It is a series of interlocking geometric and astronomical relationships executed over a vast area with unwavering accuracy. The Giza Plateau sets a benchmark that forces us to look at other high, ancient places around the world with a new and questioning eye. Leaving the Egyptian sands behind, another high plateau presents an even more visual puzzle. Etched into the arid plains of southern Peru, the Nazca lines transform hundreds of square miles of desert into a colossal canvas. Most famous for their depictions of spiders, monkeys, and hummingbirds, these geoglyphs are truly defined by their immense scale and impossible straightness. While the animal figures capture the imagination, the real engineering marvel lies in the lines themselves, vast trapezoids and arrow-straight pathways that stretch for miles across the rugged terrain. These are not simple scratches on flat ground. They run unerringly over hills and down into valleys, maintaining their precise direction with a consistency that defies the human eye. Without the ability to fly, how could any culture plan and execute such vast, flawless geometry? The creators, the Nazca people, achieved this not with advanced machinery, but with simple tools and profound knowledge. They likely used a series of stakes and ropes, carefully aligning them with distant landmarks on the horizon to create these monumental pathways. This method required an incredible grasp of surveying over long distances, turning the entire plateau into a giant geometric diagram. But the question of purpose remains as compelling as the method. Why go to such extraordinary lengths? Many researchers believe these lines were ceremonial, serving as sacred pathways for ritual processions. Others see a powerful astronomical connection, suggesting the long lines point to celestial events like the solstice sun or specific star groups on the horizon. The lines may have been a way to connect the heavens to the earth, a cosmic map written on the ground for both people and gods to see. This challenges our modern assumption that you need a bird's-eye view to create order on such a grand scale. The Nazca culture possessed a different kind of perception, one that could hold immense geometric patterns in their collective mind and translate them flawlessly into the living landscape. Their work stands as a stunning rebuke to the idea that ancient peoples were limited by their technology, hinting at a sophisticated and perhaps lost method of large-scale design that we are only beginning to comprehend. Across the English Channel, the landscape of Brittany holds a mystery of a different kind. Here at Karnak, you do not find one massive pyramid or lines visible only from the air. Instead, you walk among a forest of stone, a sprawling collection of thousands of upright megaliths arranged in long, hauntingly straight rows. These alignments march across the countryside for kilometers, a seemingly endless procession of granite sentinels erected over 5,000 years ago. The sheer number of stones is staggering, but it is their organization that truly captivates. They are not placed randomly. The rows run in a general, consistent orientation, suggesting a single, overarching vision that was executed with remarkable persistence across generations. You stand there, surrounded by this immense stone army, and the immediate, overwhelming question is not just how they did it, but why. What powerful purpose could possibly demand the movement and precise placement of so many tons of stone? One compelling theory suggests these were territorial markers, a way for a growing society to visibly define its land and affirm its identity in the world. Yet the scale feels too grand, the alignment too deliberate for such a simple explanation. This leads to another, more celestial idea. Researchers have long noted that the primary orientation of the rows seems to align with the rising and setting points of the sun and moon at key times of the year. Could Karnak have been a colossal calendar, a Neolithic computer built from granite, designed to track the cycles of the heavens and predict the turning of the seasons? The effort required to build it tells us that the knowledge of these cycles was not just practical, it was sacred, fundamental to the community's very survival and worldview. To create such a monument required more than just strong backs. It demanded a sophisticated understanding of basic mathematics and geometry. How do you keep a line perfectly straight for a kilometer over rolling terrain without a laser? They likely used a series of sighting poles, aligning one with the next to create a flawless visual path. How do you ensure thousands of stones, erected over centuries, still conform to the original master plan? This implies a system of measurement and a method of recording and transmitting knowledge so effective that it survived through countless lifetimes. The Karnak alignments are a silent testament to the organizational genius of Neolithic people, a society capable of complex, long-term project management that rivals any modern endeavor. They force us to abandon the notion of primitive hunter-gatherers and instead see a culture of astronomers, engineers, and visionaries whose legacy is written not on paper but in stone. This celestial connection is the master key that unlocks the purpose behind so many of these stone puzzles. Across continents and cultures, from the deserts of Egypt to the moors of Britain, the same pattern emerges. These monuments are giant dials pointing towards the sky. They mark the solstices, the longest and shortest days of the year, and the equinoxes, when day and night stand in perfect balance. They track the wandering path of the moon and lock onto stars that vanished from view millennia ago. This field of study, known as archaeoastronomy, bridges the gap between ancient stones and the stars they honor. It reveals that the builders were not just stacking rocks, they were encoding celestial knowledge into the very bedrock of their world. Imagine the dedication this required. It meant watching the horizon night after night, year after year, generation after generation, meticulously noting where a particular star would rise or where the sun would set on a specific day. This was a long-term scientific project spanning centuries, a continuous transfer of observational data from elders to the young, but observation alone is not enough. The true genius was in the translation. How do you turn that ephemeral knowledge, that memory of a star's position, into a 5-ton stone that will stand for thousands of years? The answer lies in simple yet brilliant engineering. They likely used horizon markers, placing a stone or a post on a distant hill that lined up with the rising sun on the summer solstice. They might have used a central observing point where a priest or astronomer would stand and watch celestial bodies align with specific stones on the perimeter. This transformed a temporary event into a permanent physical reality. The entire landscape became a clock and a calendar, a sacred machine for predicting the seasons, organizing agriculture, and timing essential community rituals. This reveals a world view where the earth and the heavens were intimately connected, two parts of a single living cosmos. The stones were the anchors that held this cosmic relationship in place, a testament to a knowledge system that was both profoundly spiritual and intensely practical. This mathematical precision points to a deeper, almost universal language embedded in the stones themselves. The builders of these monuments were not just astronomers, they were master geometers working with mathematical principles that would be formally documented thousands of years later. One of the most persistent concepts found across different cultures is the golden ratio. This is a specific proportional relationship, approximately 1.618 to 1, that appears repeatedly in nature, from the spiral of a nautilus shell to the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower. It is a ratio that the human eye inherently finds pleasing, a form of natural harmony, and we find it deliberately encoded into the very fabric of ancient structures. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for instance, is not just a square base with 4 triangles. The proportions of its height in relation to its base perimeter closely approximate the mathematical constant pi, and the geometry of its inner chambers reflects the golden ratio. This was not a coincidence. It was a conscious design choice, embedding the fundamental patterns of the natural world into a monument meant to last for eternity. But the geometry goes far beyond single ratios. At sites like Stonehenge in England, we find the sophisticated use of Pythagorean triangles, right-angled triangles whose sides form perfect whole number ratios. These triangles were the essential building blocks for creating perfect squares and aligning structures to the cardinal directions with incredible accuracy. How do you lay out a perfect 52-meter diameter circle of massive stones without a modern transit? You use ropes and stakes to create a series of interconnected Pythagorean triangles, a geometric net that ensures every point on the circle is perfectly equidistant from the center. This was practical, applied mathematics on a colossal scale. The geometry was not merely decorative, it was the very tool that allowed them to translate their celestial observations into physical reality. To align a monument to the solstice sunrise, you first need a perfectly straight line. That straight line is created and verified using geometric principles. To ensure a structure will stand for millennia, you design its proportions according to geometric rules that distribute weight and stress efficiently. This mathematical foundation provided the stability needed for these monuments to survive the ages, while also giving them a profound symbolic meaning. The circle represented the eternal cycle of the seasons, the square symbolized the 4 cardinal directions and the solidity of the earth, and the triangle pointed towards the heavens. By combining these shapes, the builders were creating a miniature model of the cosmos, a sacred space where the order of the universe was made visible and tangible. This harmony between the built environment and natural laws suggests a worldview where mathematics was not just a human invention, but a divine language used to understand and honor the structure of creation itself. The mathematical harmony embedded in these stones reveals a mind capable of thinking in grand, geometric patterns. But to bring those patterns to life across a sprawling plateau required more than just theory. It demanded a practical method for measuring the Earth itself. Without steel tapes or laser rangefinders, how did they span such vast distances with such unerring accuracy? The answer is found in a principle so elegant it remains the foundation of modern surveying: triangulation. This is not a complex idea. Imagine you are standing on one side of a wide river and you need to know the exact distance to a large stone on the opposite bank. You cannot simply wade across with a measuring rope. Instead, you mark your position, then you walk a known distance along your own riverbank, carefully measuring each step. You stop and mark this second spot. Now you have a baseline, a line of known length. From this new position, you look back at the stone across the river and note the angle between your baseline and your line of sight to the stone. With that one known distance and those two angles, you have created a triangle. The beautiful logic of geometry then takes over, allowing you to calculate the exact distance across the river without ever getting your feet wet. This simple yet powerful technique could be scaled up dramatically. By creating a chain of interconnected triangles across a landscape, ancient surveyors could map an entire territory with remarkable precision. The long, straight lines at Karnak or the perfectly spaced pyramids at Giza could have been laid out using a series of sighting poles and ropes, with teams of workers creating these geometric nets to transfer alignments over hills and valleys. This practical approach demonstrates a profound truth. Advanced knowledge does not always require complex technology. It often springs from a deep and intuitive understanding of fundamental principles, of how space and form relate to one another. The real magic was not in a fancy instrument, but in the human mind's ability to see the invisible triangles connecting the world. This ingenuity in measurement naturally makes us wonder about the physical tools that made these calculations possible. The gap between their humble toolkits and the colossal structures they left behind is almost beyond belief. We find no evidence of complex machinery, only the most fundamental instruments imaginable. Their entire surveying arsenal likely consisted of nothing more than sturdy ropes made from plant fibers or leather, sharpened wooden pegs to mark points on the ground, tall sighting poles for aligning distant objects, and simple water levels. A water level is a profoundly clever device, just a trough or a length of hollowed-out wood filled with water. Because water always finds its own level, this tool allowed them to transfer a perfectly horizontal plane across any distance, ensuring their foundations were flawlessly flat even over rolling terrain. A plumb bob, a weighted string that always points directly toward the Earth's center, gave them a reliable vertical reference. Individually, these tools seem almost laughably simple. But used together in a carefully orchestrated sequence, they became a powerful system for imposing order on chaos. To lay out a perfect square, they could begin with a baseline established using sighting poles and ropes. They would then use the water level to ensure that baseline was perfectly level. Using the geometry of right-angled triangles created with knotted ropes, they could turn perfect 90-degree corners. The plumb bob would ensure that any upright stones were set perfectly vertical. Every step was verified and re-verified, a process of constant checking and adjustment that compensated for the simplicity of each individual tool. This was not about a single brilliant invention. It was about an unbroken chain of meticulous technique. The true technology was not in the rope or the peg, but in the accumulated knowledge of how to use them, a tradition passed verbally and through demonstration from master builders to apprentices over countless generations. This process elevates the story from one about anonymous laborers to one about specific, highly skilled individuals. We can almost picture the master surveyor, a person who held the entire geometric plan in their mind, directing teams with unwavering authority. Their keen eyes judged the alignments, their hands guided the placement of each marker, and their deep understanding of the land and the sky transformed abstract mathematical principles into enduring stone. The monuments stand not as a testament to lost gadgets, but as a permanent memorial to human skill, patience, and the profound power of knowledge carefully preserved and applied. Behind the precise placement of every stone stood a person, a master of their craft. These were not ordinary laborers directed by simple chieftains. The scale and sophistication of the plateau monuments point to the existence of a specialized class, a group of elite professionals who held the community's most vital knowledge. They were the master builders, the astronomer priests, the surveyors of the sky. Their minds were the true instruments of precision, holding complex blueprints for structures that would take generations to complete. To coordinate the movement of multi-ton stones and align them to celestial events required a highly structured society, one that valued and protected this esoteric understanding. This was not a casual weekend project for the village. It was a civilization-defining endeavor that demanded a clear hierarchy and a shared long-term vision. The very existence of these experts forces us to abandon any lingering notion of primitive, disorganized tribes. Instead, we see a culture with a division of labor so advanced that it allowed for the birth of pure science and engineering. The training of such an individual would have been a lifelong pursuit. A young apprentice would not simply learn how to tie a knot or lift a rock. He would be immersed in a world of celestial cycles, geometric principles, and the sacred meanings behind every alignment. This knowledge was the most valuable currency their society possessed, the key to predicting the seasons, organizing their calendar, and maintaining their connection to the cosmos. How do you preserve such complex data across centuries without a single written word? The answer lies in the power of oral tradition, a system of rigorous memorization and ritualized recitation. The precise length of a rope, the correct angle for a solstice alignment, the mathematical formula for a right angle, all of it was encoded into stories, songs, and chants. This was not a haphazard process. It was a disciplined, protected tradition where accuracy was a sacred duty. A single error in transmission could mean a pyramid facing the wrong direction or a calendar that failed to predict the spring planting. This method of curation, of passing flawless knowledge from one generation to the next through sheer mental discipline, is a staggering intellectual achievement in its own right. It makes us ponder the ultimate source of their understanding. Did this knowledge emerge from thousands of years of patient, cumulative observation of the natural world? Or does it hint at a now forgotten chapter in human history, a lost epoch of discovery whose records have long since turned to dust? The monuments themselves are the only testament left, a silent challenge from the master builders of the past. That power to predict the turning of the seasons was a form of magic made real. One of the most breathtaking examples of this celestial timekeeping is found not in a grand pyramid, but within a grassy mound in Ireland. Newgrange is a massive, circular tomb older than Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids. Its entrance is guarded by a massive, intricately carved stone, but the true genius lies in a small, unassuming feature above the doorway, a narrow window known as a roof box. For just a few minutes at dawn on the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, a brilliant shaft of sunlight pierces through this opening. It travels down a long, dark passageway, illuminating the inner burial chamber with a golden light that has not faded for over 5,000 years. This was not a random occurrence. It was a meticulously engineered event, a guaranteed moment of light and warmth in the depth of winter's cold. This single annual alignment served a profound purpose, transforming a tomb into a powerful symbol of rebirth and the eternal return of the sun. A similar yet distinct phenomenon occurs at Fajada Butte in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. Here, the ancestral Puebloan people designed a celestial display using the landscape itself. They positioned 3 large stone slabs against a cliff face, and behind them they carved a spiral petroglyph into the rock. On the summer solstice, a dagger of sunlight, perfectly sliced by the edges of the slabs, pierces the center of the spiral. On the equinox, 2 sun daggers bracket the carving. This was a sophisticated calendar in stone, marking the pivotal moments of the solar year with unerring accuracy. The ability to pinpoint these dates was not merely for ceremony, it was essential for survival. Knowing precisely when to plant crops, when to harvest, and when to prepare for the lean months of winter was the difference between prosperity and hardship. These stone calendars provided a permanent, unwavering reference point in a world without written almanacs or digital forecasts. The community's entire agricultural and ritual cycle could be organized around these celestial events, creating a stable and predictable rhythm for society. Yet, the incredible precision involved often seems to go beyond simple utility. A spiral perfectly bisected by a sliver of light, or a beam reaching a chamber deep within a mound, carries a weight that feels more than just practical. It hints at a deeper, more symbolic purpose, a desire to physically capture a moment of cosmic harmony and to weave the laws of the heavens directly into the fabric of daily life. This blurring of the line between science and spirit suggests their understanding of the cosmos was not just about tracking time, but about participating in its sacred order. Another dimension to this mystery suggests the stones were placed not only to watch the sky, but to listen to the earth. This theory of geomantic alignment proposes that ancient cultures perceived subtle energies flowing through the landscape, and they built their monuments to harness or mark these invisible currents. This worldview sees the Earth itself as a living, breathing entity crisscrossed by pathways of power. In the early 20th century, an Englishman named Alfred Watkins gave a name to this concept, calling them ley lines. He described them as straight, energetic tracks connecting ancient sites, burial mounds, old churches, and prominent hilltops across the British countryside. Watkins imagined these lines as ancient trade routes or spiritual pathways, a network of meaning written upon the land. The idea resonated deeply, suggesting that the precise placement of a stone circle or a solitary menhir was not a random act, but a deliberate connection to a node of terrestrial energy. From a scientific perspective, the search for measurable energy fields along these lines has proven elusive. Modern geology and physics have not identified any consistent, anomalous force that corresponds with these proposed alignments. Yet, to dismiss the entire concept is to miss its profound cultural significance. Whether or not these energies exist in a way we can measure with our instruments, the belief in them was a powerful reality for the builders. It represents a symbolic understanding of the land where certain places were felt to be sacred, charged with a unique presence or spiritual potency. A spring emerging from the ground, a distinctive hill silhouetted against the sky, a convergence of valleys, these were natural temples long before the first stone was ever set. Building a monument at such a location was a way to amplify that inherent power, to create a focal point where the community could connect with the spirit of the earth. This transforms the monuments from simple observatories into acupuncture points for the planet, placed with precision to balance and channel the forces of nature. It adds a deep, spiritual layer to the mystery of their placement, suggesting their alignment was not just celestial but terrestrial, a harmonious integration into a living, energetic landscape. Building one perfect alignment is a testament to human skill, but maintaining that flawless precision across centuries of construction is something else entirely. This is the profound challenge of perpetuating a master plan. How do you ensure that a new generation of builders who never met the original architects continues the work with no deviation? The unwavering alignments at Giza and the kilometer-long rows at Karnak did not happen by accident. They required a system, a cultural mechanism for transmitting sacred knowledge with zero degradation over time. At the heart of this system was an unbroken chain of apprenticeship. A master surveyor would not merely teach a young apprentice how to hold a plumb bob, he would immerse him in the entire cosmic worldview. The student would learn the stories behind the stars, the songs that encoded geometric formulas, and the precise hand signals for directing the placement of a 20-ton stone. This knowledge was not written down, it was lived and performed, becoming a part of the apprentice's very identity. The punishment for error was not just a crooked line, it was a broken connection to the cosmos, a failure of sacred duty. This created a powerful, self-correcting tradition where the only way to become a master was to demonstrate a flawless understanding of the original plan. Alongside this human chain, the builders relied on unchanging celestial markers. The rising point of a specific star or the solstice sun on the horizon provided a permanent external reference point. Each new generation could independently verify their work against these celestial constants, ensuring that even if oral traditions became slightly muddled, the stones themselves would remain true to the heavens. This combination of disciplined human training and unwavering natural benchmarks created a legacy of staggering consistency. It points to a society of remarkable stability, one that protected its core knowledge through countless lifetimes. This very stability makes their eventual silence so deeply puzzling. What could cause such a powerful, organized, and knowledgeable tradition to simply fade away, leaving only its stone footprints for us to ponder? The sheer willpower required to build these monuments becomes truly staggering when you consider their locations. These are not gentle, resource-rich valleys, but some of the most unforgiving landscapes on Earth. The Andean Altiplano sits at a breathtaking altitude where the air is thin and freezing winds whip across the plains. The Egyptian desert offers a different kind of harshness, with scorching daytime heat and a profound scarcity of water. In these environments, the basic act of survival is a daily challenge. Yet, these cultures chose precisely these difficult places to execute their most ambitious and precise projects. This forces us to confront the immense logistical nightmares they willingly embraced. How do you transport a 100-ton block of stone across dozens of miles of rugged, trackless desert? The conventional answer involves sledges, rollers, and immense human labor, but that only scratches the surface. You also need to house and feed an army of workers in a place where food cannot be grown. You need a constant, reliable supply of water for thousands of people, not just for drinking, but for mixing mortar, for leveling foundations, and for the workers themselves. Every single resource, from the timber for levers to the fibers for ropes, had to be brought in from distant sources through a monumental supply chain that operated for decades. They accomplished all of this without a single crane, without protective gear, and without any of the safety nets we take for granted. The physical toll on the individuals involved must have been immense, a testament to human endurance in the face of overwhelming hardship. And yet, through all of this, the one thing they never compromised was precision. The alignments remained flawless, the corners stayed perfectly square, the solstice sunlight continued to strike its target with unerring accuracy. This reveals something far deeper than engineering skill. It points to a cultural imperative of overwhelming power. The drive to build these monuments, to align them with the cosmos, was so fundamental to their identity and worldview that no obstacle was too great. The project was not just important, it was essential, a necessary act that connected their society to the very order of the universe. This realization forces us to move beyond seeing these as simple tombs or temples. We must instead see them as the physical manifestation of a belief system so powerful it could move mountains, or at the very least, carve the heavens into the most unlikely and formidable places on Earth. But the mystery of precision extends far beyond the boundaries of a single plateau. A second, even more profound anomaly emerges when we look at the map. Certain monuments, separated by hundreds of miles of mountains, rivers, and forests, appear to be in deliberate conversation with one another. The stones of one sacred site seem to point directly toward the stones of another, creating alignments that stretch across entire continents. This idea of long-distance sacred geography suggests a network of sites, a web of meaning woven into the landscape itself. The evidence for this is both geometric and astronomical. Researchers have noted, for instance, that the Great Pyramid at Giza in Egypt and the ancient megalithic temple of Angkor Wat in Cambodia are situated on almost exactly the same longitudinal line, a line that also corresponds to 1/13 of the Earth's circumference. Could this be a coincidence? Perhaps, but when you find multiple sites from different eras and cultures, all falling on significant geometric divisions of the planet, the odds of random chance begin to shrink. Other proposed alignments connect sites through shared astronomical sightlines. A mountain peak sacred to one culture might align perfectly with a distant stone circle, with both locations marking the rising point of the same star on the summer solstice. This implies a level of continental scale planning that fundamentally challenges our view of the ancient world. It suggests that these cultures were not isolated. They may have been part of a shared knowledge system, a tradition of sacred geometry and astronomy that was passed along trade routes or through rare, long-distance contact between elite priests. The alternative is equally staggering, that separate societies with no contact whatsoever independently discovered the same complex principles of alignment and chose to express them in stone. This pushes the mystery from being about local genius to a potential global phenomenon, a shared human impulse to chart the heavens and mark the Earth in a coordinated, meaningful way. Were these monuments the nodes in a planet-wide, ancient internet of knowledge? The silent stones offer no easy answers, only a pattern that grows more intricate the wider we cast our gaze. These silent stone puzzles have fundamentally rewritten the story of our past. For generations, the prevailing image of ancient societies was one of simple farmers and hunter-gatherers, their lives consumed by the daily struggle for survival. The plateau monuments shattered that assumption. How could a primitive people, as they were so often labeled, achieve feats of engineering that still command our deepest respect? The stones themselves became the evidence, a hard, undeniable truth that forced a complete re-evaluation of human history. This was not a gradual change of opinion. It was a paradigm shift driven by the very precision etched into the landscape. Archaeologists could no longer rely on old models that dismissed ancient capabilities. They had to confront the reality of what these builders had accomplished. This intellectual revolution demanded new ways of seeing, both literally and figuratively. To truly grasp the scale and accuracy of these sites, traditional methods of mapping with tape measures and notebooks were simply not enough. The field had to evolve, giving rise to a new era of digital archaeology. Technologies like LiDAR, which uses lasers from aircraft to penetrate dense forest canopies and map the ground beneath, have revealed vast, hidden networks of structures and roadways. Ground-penetrating radar allows researchers to peer into the Earth without lifting a single shovel, revealing buried stones and hidden chambers that form part of a larger, invisible pattern. These tools are not just for discovery, they are for verification. They allow us to measure the straightness of a mile-long Nazca line with millimeter accuracy, or to confirm the subtle astronomical orientation of a stone circle that the naked eye could never perceive. This technological leap was a direct response to the ancient challenge, a modern attempt to meet the precision of the past with the tools of the present. But the stones presented a puzzle that no single field could solve alone. The mystery of their alignments forced a powerful collaboration, breaking down the walls between academic disciplines. Today, you will find astronomers working alongside archaeologists, using software to reconstruct ancient skies and identify the stars that have long since shifted in the heavens. Engineers analyzed the quarrying and transportation of megaliths, providing plausible models for how human ingenuity triumphed over immense weight and distance. This interdisciplinary conversation is where the real breakthroughs are happening. It acknowledges that understanding a monument like Karnak requires more than just knowing its age. It requires a grasp of celestial mechanics, structural physics, and the social organization needed to coordinate such a project. The ancient builders did not separate their knowledge into neat categories of science, religion, and engineering, and neither can we if we hope to understand them. In a profound way, the very problems posed by these ancient master builders are driving modern innovation, pushing us to develop better tools and forge new partnerships in knowledge. The quest to solve their mystery is, in itself, expanding the boundaries of our own. Mystery has a way of attracting its own shadow, a fog of speculation that can obscure the real wonder. One of the most persistent ideas is that these monuments were built by visitors from another world, a theory born from the belief that ancient humans simply could not have done it themselves. This idea, however captivating, does a profound disservice to the immense capabilities of human ingenuity. We are not looking at impossible tasks, but at problems solved with brilliant, practical solutions. Every stone moved, every alignment calculated, was achieved with tools and techniques we can understand and even replicate today. The evidence points not to extraterrestrial intervention, but to generations of dedicated, highly skilled individuals who passed their hard-won knowledge from master to apprentice. To credit aliens is to ignore the true story, a story of human intellect and perseverance that is, in its own way, far more extraordinary. Another common misconception is the belief in flawless, absolute perfection. The alignments are not perfect in a mathematical sense, and that is precisely what makes them so compellingly human. When we measure these sites with our most advanced instruments, we find tiny deviations. A solstice sunrise might strike a few centimeters from the exact center of a target stone, or a long row of megaliths might waver by a minuscule amount over its great length. These are not failures, they are signatures. They are the subtle fingerprints of the builders, evidence of the immense practical challenges they faced. Perhaps the ground settled slightly over the centuries, or a sighting pole was nudged by the wind on a crucial day. These minor imperfections do not diminish the achievement, they authenticate it. They remind us that we are studying the work of human hands, not the output of an infallible machine. Dispelling these myths clears the air, allowing us to see the monuments for what they truly are, a testament to what people can accomplish with careful observation, shared purpose, and a deep connection to their world. The real story is not one of mysterious outside help or impossible precision, but of a uniquely human form of genius. It is a story written in stone, waiting for us to read it with clear eyes and an open mind. The stone circles of Europe and the stepped pyramids of Mesoamerica seem worlds apart at first glance. One is built from rough-hewn granite standing stark against a misty moor, while the other rises as a polished limestone temple in a dense jungle. Yet, if we look past the surface, a deeper resonance emerges. Both were constructed on vast, elevated plains, and both are meticulously aligned to the same celestial clock. Consider the great Maya complex of Chichen Itza. Its main pyramid, El Castillo, is a masterpiece of astronomical engineering. On the spring and autumn equinoxes, the setting sun casts a shadow along its northern staircase, creating the undulating illusion of a serpent slithering down from the heavens to the earth. This is a direct parallel to the solar alignments we see at Stonehenge, where the heel stone frames the rising solstice sun. The materials and forms are culturally distinct, a reflection of local resources and beliefs, but the intention is identical: to capture a pivotal moment in the solar cycle and make it a permanent part of the human landscape. This pattern extends even to the ancient observatories of China, where temples at sites like Dengfeng were carefully positioned to measure the sun's shadow at the solstices, creating a standard of measurement for the entire kingdom. How is it that cultures separated by impassable oceans and millennia, with no conceivable contact, all arrived at the same sophisticated conclusion? They were not copying one another, they were all reading from the same universal text, the sky above. The human impulse to mark time, to seek order in the cosmos, and to build monuments that bridge the earthly and the divine appears to be a fundamental part of our shared story. These parallel discoveries suggest a common thread of genius woven through the tapestry of human history, each culture expressing it in its own unique, yet eerily similar, voice. Another powerful way to understand these monuments is to place them on a timeline. When we compare structures built thousands of years apart, a fascinating story of knowledge unfolds, one that is not always a straight line of progress. Consider the incredible precision of the Neolithic builders at a place like Stonehenge, constructed over millennia beginning around 5,000 years ago. Its massive stones were precisely shaped and arranged to track complex lunar cycles and solar alignments with stunning accuracy. Now, fast forward to the Bronze Age and the pyramids of Giza. Here we see a different kind of precision, one of monumental scale and geometric perfection, a mastery of mathematics and mass construction. Then look at temples built in the Iron Age centuries later. While still impressive, some show a subtle shift. The alignments might be slightly less exact, or the methods for moving and dressing stone might seem less refined in comparison to their predecessors. This presents a profound question. Does this represent a slow loss of a sacred science? It is possible that the deep, practical knowledge of the original surveyors and astronomer priests, so carefully guarded through oral tradition, could have been diluted or fragmented over centuries of social change, migration, or conflict. The specific techniques for achieving flawless alignments over vast distances may have faded, even as the desire to build grand temples remained. Alternatively, this could reflect a change in priorities. As societies evolved, the primary purpose of these structures might have shifted from being precise celestial calendars to serving as centers of political power or community gathering, where absolute astronomical precision was no longer the most critical factor. This chronological comparison reveals that humanity's relationship with this esoteric knowledge was not static. There were peaks of extraordinary capability, where a perfect fusion of spiritual purpose and technical skill created marvels that stand unequaled for ages. Then there were periods where that specific, razor-sharp focus seems to have softened. This ebb and flow shows us that knowledge, even the most sacred and powerful kind, is not a permanent possession. It is a flame that must be carefully tended and passed from one generation to the next, or it can flicker and fade, leaving behind only echoes in stone for future ages to wonder at. The instructions for aligning a stone to the solstice sun were never written on a clay tablet. They were woven into the fabric of a story, passed from an elder to a child by the light of a fire. This was the true library of the ancient world, a living repository of knowledge safeguarded in memory. Oral tradition was not merely entertainment, it was a sophisticated data storage system. The precise length of a measuring rope could be encoded in the epic journey of a hero. The number of steps between two stars might be hidden in the verses of a sacred song, and the correct angle for a pyramid slope could be preserved in a chant describing the descent of a god from the heavens. These stories were mnemonic devices designed to be unforgettable. Rhythm, rhyme, and repetition transformed dry technical specifications into a vibrant cultural inheritance, ensuring that the blueprint for a monument could survive intact for countless generations. Consider the global flood myths found in countless cultures. While often interpreted as simple tales of divine punishment, they could also be allegorical memories of very real celestial events. A story about a great deluge sent by the gods might actually encode the observation of a massive comet impact or a rapid shift in sea levels, events that would have been catastrophic for early civilizations. Similarly, a myth about a hero chasing the sun across the sky could be a poetic manual for tracking the sun's changing path from solstice to solstice. The monster the hero slays might represent the constellation that sets as the new season's star rises. This was a world where every natural phenomenon held a deeper meaning, and every story was a layer of coded instruction. The spiritual narrative about a god commanding the building of a temple was also the practical command to begin a generational project, providing the divine authority and communal will to see it through. The master builders were not just engineers, they were the keepers of these stories. Their genius lay in understanding both the technical truth and the spiritual metaphor, seeing them as two expressions of the same universal law. To separate the science from the spirituality is to misunderstand their world completely. For them, the mathematics that aligned a stone circle was as sacred as the prayer offered within it, two parts of a single act of cosmic harmony. These ambitious experiments begin with a simple yet daunting challenge: move that stone. Teams of archaeologists and engineers, armed with nothing but replicas of ancient tools, have tried to recreate the transport of massive megaliths. They fashion wooden sledges from whole trees and lash them with handmade ropes. They place log rollers underneath, and then, with dozens of people heaving on ropes, they attempt to coax a multi-ton block forward. The process is agonizingly slow, a symphony of coordinated shouts, straining muscles, and constant danger. One wrong move, one slipping roller, and the entire effort can collapse. These modern replicators quickly learn that the true challenge is not pure strength, but logistics and rhythm. They must keep the sledges lubricated, often with water or a slick clay, to reduce friction. They need a perfectly clear and level path, which itself requires immense preparatory work. Every detail, from the type of wood used for the rollers to the angle of the pulling ropes, becomes critically important. Success is measured in meters moved per day, a humbling pace that reveals the sheer volume of patient labor embedded in every ancient monument. It transforms a theoretical discussion about how it might have been done into a visceral understanding of the sweat, the blisters, and the unwavering determination it actually required. Beyond mere movement lies the even more delicate task of placement. How do you raise a 20-ton stone pillar and set it perfectly upright into a waiting hole? Experimental teams have tested various theories, from building large earthen ramps to using a complex system of levers and counterweights. One of the most compelling methods involves a technique known as the stone-raising walk. Here, the team first tilts the stone into a shallow pit. Using wooden levers, they lift one side just enough to slip logs underneath. Then, through a carefully choreographed sequence of lifting and packing, they walk the stone upward, bit by bit, until it stands vertical. The margin for error is terrifyingly small. The entire operation depends on perfect communication and trust among the crew. A single misstep could mean a shattered stone or a serious injury. When the stone finally settles into its socket, the achievement is palpable, a shared moment of triumph that bridges thousands of years. This hands-on struggle provides something no textbook ever could: a deep, embodied respect for the nuanced skill of the original builders. It was not just about having enough people, it was about having the right knowledge, the kind that lives in the hands and the heart, passed down through generations of practiced experience. The ultimate test of this replicated knowledge comes when the last stone is set, and the team must wait for a specific celestial event. After months or even years of work using only ropes, sighting poles, and the naked eye, they gather before dawn on a solstice morning. There is a palpable tension in the air, a silent question hanging over the entire project. Did we get it right? As the sun breaks the horizon, its first rays strike the target stone, casting a long shadow that aligns perfectly with the central axis of their newly built circle. In that moment, the abstract becomes real. The alignment is not a legend or a lucky guess. It is a repeatable, verifiable fact. This success proves that the principles of geometry and astronomy are accessible to anyone with the patience to observe and the ingenuity to apply them. It demonstrates that the ancient builders were not mystics but masterful applied scientists. Yet, even in success, these experiments often reveal a deeper truth: the staggering investment of time. A project that a modern construction crew could complete in weeks with machinery might take a dedicated ancient community years or even decades to finish. This timeline is not a mark of primitiveness, but a testament to a different set of values. It speaks of a culture that was willing to invest the lifetime of its people into a project meant to last for millennia, a perspective on legacy that challenges our own fast-paced world. These reconstructed monuments stand not as perfect replicas, but as powerful bridges, allowing us to glimpse the profound intelligence and enduring spirit of those who came before us. The origin of their knowledge is the silent heart of this mystery. After all our measurements and theories, we are left staring at the same fundamental question. Where did this profound understanding of geometry, astronomy, and engineering truly come from? One school of thought presents a deeply pragmatic answer. It suggests that this was not a sudden revelation, but a hard-won inheritance built over countless generations. Picture a lineage of sky watchers sitting at the same sacred spot for centuries, patiently noting the subtle dance of the stars. A father would teach his son to mark the exact point on the horizon where a particular star first appeared after its long absence. Over lifetimes, these observations would accumulate, revealing the grand cycles of the cosmos. This slow, cumulative process of discovery could absolutely account for the celestial alignments we see. It is a testament to human patience and the power of careful, sustained attention. Yet, this gradualist view is challenged by the sudden appearance of fully formed, incredibly complex structures in the archaeological record. Some sites show no evidence of simpler, trial-and-error prototypes. They appear almost as if a complete blueprint was delivered at once. This has led to a more speculative but persistent hypothesis. Could this knowledge be the legacy of a much older, now vanished civilization? A culture that mastered these sciences during the last ice age, only to have its great cities and libraries erased by rising seas or climatic shifts. The survivors of this hypothetical precursor society would have carried the core of this knowledge with them, seeding it among emerging cultures around the world. This would explain the parallel discoveries and shared mathematical principles found in societies that supposedly never met. It is a romantic and haunting idea that we are merely seeing the echoes of a world we lost. There is a third, more subtle possibility. Perhaps the source was not a specific body of information, but a different way of being in the world. Our modern minds are conditioned to separate the observer from the observed. We see the sky as something external to measure and chart. But what if these ancient cultures experienced a deeper unity with nature? Their perception might have been more holistic, allowing them to intuitively sense the geometric patterns and energetic flows of the living earth in a way we can no longer access. Their knowledge would have been as much a feeling as a calculation, a symbiotic relationship with the cosmos that guided their hands. This is not about mystical powers, but about a mode of consciousness that integrated art, science, and spirit into a single, seamless understanding. Ultimately, each hypothesis offers a different lens on human potential. The pragmatic view celebrates our perseverance. The lost civilization theory warns of our fragility. The perceptual shift idea challenges the very boundaries of our awareness. The source of their knowledge may remain an enigma forever, a question that keeps us looking both to the stars and deep within ourselves, forever wondering what we have forgotten. That ultimate purpose remains the silent, central question echoing across every plateau. We can map the alignments with lasers and calculate the geometry with computers, but we cannot fully enter the minds of the people who felt such a powerful need to build. The theories we have crafted are like pieces of a puzzle that never quite fit together perfectly. Perhaps these sites were, first and foremost, religious centers, places where the community could connect with the gods of the sky and earth. The solstice light piercing a dark chamber was not just a calendar event. It was a moment of divine communication, a reassurance from the cosmos that the sun would return and life would continue. In this view, the precision was an act of devotion, a way to build a flawless house for the gods. Yet, the same evidence points just as strongly to a function as a scientific observatory. The generations of sky watchers were not just priests, they were the first astronomers compiling data to predict seasons, track time, and understand their universe. The monument was their laboratory, a permanent research facility built in stone. And then there is the undeniable display of political power. To mobilize thousands of workers for generations requires immense social control. A ruler who could command the building of such a marvel was demonstrating a godlike authority, unifying a people under a single, awe-inspiring vision. So, which was it? The most compelling answer is that it was all three simultaneously. In the ancient worldview, these concepts were not separate. Science, religion, and power were woven from the same thread. To predict the solstice was to understand the mind of a god, and that knowledge was the ultimate source of political authority. The precision was the common denominator, the non-negotiable element that made the entire system work, whether its output was a spiritual experience, an agricultural forecast, or a statement of dominance. This leads to a more profound possibility, that their true function is something our modern, segmented minds struggle to grasp. We live in a world of specialization, where science, faith, and politics operate in different spheres. They lived in a world of unity, where a single stone could be a spiritual anchor, a scientific instrument, and a political symbol all at once. The monument was the physical hub where all these strands of community life converged. This is why the purpose remains elusive. We are trying to define a single note in what was for them, a grand and harmonious symphony. These ancient stones have survived for millennia, but their future is now uncertain. The same precision that has captivated us makes these sites intensely fragile. A single misstep, a change in groundwater, or the slow pressure of countless footsteps can subtly shift a stone, irrevocably breaking an alignment that has held true for 5,000 years. The ethical duty to preserve them presents a modern dilemma as complex as the monuments themselves. How do we protect something without smothering it? Well-intentioned conservation can sometimes cause more harm than good. Using modern concrete to stabilize a prehistoric wall might prevent a collapse, but it also introduces foreign materials that can trap moisture and accelerate decay, or permanently alter the original aesthetic and structural integrity of the site. The goal is to intervene as little as possible, to be invisible guardians. This philosophy extends to the challenge of public access. We want people to experience the awe of walking among these stones, to feel a direct connection to the past. Yet, every visitor brings a tiny, cumulative cost. the soil around a popular monument becomes compacted, affecting drainage and the root systems of stabilizing vegetation. Gentle, unintentional touches over decades can wear down intricate carvings, and in the worst cases, there is the thoughtless damage of vandalism, where a single act of graffiti can desecrate a sacred space forever. The solution often involves a difficult balance, limiting numbers, creating designated pathways, and using remote viewing platforms. It is a trade-off, sacrificing a degree of intimate access to ensure the site survives for generations yet to come. The threats are not just local. Climate change introduces a new and pervasive danger. Increased rainfall and flooding can erode the foundations of monuments that have stood dry for centuries. Rising temperatures and prolonged droughts can crack ancient stone, while shifting weather patterns may accelerate the growth of destructive lichens and microbes. These global problems require global thinking, connecting the fate of a stone circle in Scotland to the future of a pyramid in the desert. We have become the unexpected custodians of this precision, tasked with maintaining alignments we are only beginning to comprehend. This responsibility ties our present actions directly to the legacy of the builders, creating a silent partnership across time to protect a mystery that is not yet finished speaking. Our journey across these high places of the world comes to a close, but the questions they raise only grow louder. The silent, precise stones of Giza, Nazca, and Karnak present a unified story, one not of simple ancient peoples, but of master architects, astronomers, and philosophers. They achieved a harmony with the cosmos using nothing but keen observation, geometric genius, and a cultural will that spanned generations. This legacy stands as a powerful challenge to our modern timeline of progress, forcing us to reconsider the very nature of human capability. We have traced the lines they drew with ropes and pegs. We have stood where they stood to watch the solstice light, and we have marveled at the organizational genius required to turn a vision into enduring stone. Yet, for all we have uncovered, the deepest resonance of these places remains just beyond our grasp. They are a testament to a different way of seeing the world, where science, spirit, and society were one. Let this exploration be a lasting reminder that our history is far richer and more mysterious than any textbook could contain. The true purpose of these plateau monuments may forever be a subject of wonder, and that is perhaps their greatest gift to us, an endless invitation to look at our past with humility and at our own potential with awe. What do you believe these ancient builders were trying to tell us across the centuries? Share your own thoughts and theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the depths of history's greatest puzzles, subscribe for more adventures into the secrets of our